Welcome to this interview. I'm Meagen Gibson, your conference co-host. Today, I'm speaking with Cotter, author of the Suicide Prevention Family Handbook, 3 Keys to Managing PTSD, and founder of the Stress is Gone Wellness platform. He has 25 years experience helping clients process the most traumatic events in their lives. Brett is the trauma expert from Meditation University's teacher training program. He trains vet-to-vet peer specialists in his suicide prevention protocol and certifies students remotely. Brett Cotter, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks so much for having me, Meagen. I'm so excited to be here.
So in your handbook that you were so graciously shared with me, you talk about how people in tremendous pain feel unsupported and alone because their support system is often misaligned. And typically people want to support people, but they look at the people who can't give them support and they overlook the people who can. And I was struck by this because I think our people really want to be supportive and just don't know how, which is why I'm excited about our conversation today, because we're going to teach people what it means to be a safe person. So let's start with body language. What are a few body language techniques that we can use to help a loved one or a client feel safe enough to open up about their deepest pain?
Yeah, so in our coaches training and in the Suicide Prevention Family Handbook, we talk about the body language and tone do's and don'ts, right? So if you were ever trying to support a loved one that was going through some serious depression, or God forbid, even suicidal ideation, or if you have a lot of clients that you might have had for a while that are suffering with depression and they might be stuck, when we start to hear their deepest pains, we get triggered and our stress starts to activate. And the words our stress wants to say does not help their pain go away. So what I found was body language was a way to disengage the other person's defense mechanisms and help us stay present as coaches, parents, spouses, anyone that's trying to support somebody and really be present and hold space for them. So some of the do's and don'ts that we go into the book, and we really kind of go into a lot of them in the book. I'm going to summarize a few here. Number one is you want to sit in front of somebody about arm's distance apart with your left shoulder slightly leaning in and your hands resting on your thighs with your left palm facing up, and your left palm is going to be slightly more forward than your right palm. You're going to use a soft gaze in your eyes, soft facial expressions. Maybe every once in a while you raise your eyebrows when they've said something that was like emotionally charged for you. And this is a really good way to help the other person feel safe. Another big tip is using your left eye and looking into their right eye. All these little tips helps the other person feel safe enough to open up about their deepest pain and feel vulnerable enough with you. If they start sensing that you're thinking, you're judging, you're criticizing, or you're reacting, their pain is going to burrow right back down into the body, and it's going to be very hard to access again. And it's just going to be torturing them, right? Because they're caught in that cycle. We all get caught in these cycles. So that body language is just really important to help us remain present, to help disengage the other person's defense mechanisms so they could feel safe enough to really open up to you.
And does this kind of work in a way that helps the person who's trying to hold space, who's trying to help the person that's in pain, gives them something to do other than say all the wrong things, right? Like, because as you said, when that discomfort comes up, we want to interject, we want to object, we want to, defend them against themselves. Like I'm imagining all the things that come up for us, and they're all well-intentioned, but have bad outcomes. And so is this in part a way to give ourselves something to do while we're battling like against all the wrong things we're trying to say?
Some of the toughest times in these moments is with a parent supporting a child, a teenager, someone that we really love while they're expressing their deepest pain, right? Sometimes our overreactions come out. We tell them how they should be feeling, what they should be doing. None of that is helping at all. What you can do as the witness, as somebody holding space for another person that's unpacking their pain, is to be really super aware of your own body. So once you feel tension arise in your chest, your stomach, your solar plexus, that's your stress reaction kicking in. Once you start feeling emotional, or you want to, kind of overreact and say something that you might regret and you might want to cut them off, That's your body reacting. That's not helping. So what you can do is touch your own tension, right? So if your left hand is on your left thigh with your palm facing up, kind of leaning that left shoulder forward, right? Using your left eye looking into their right eye. When you're feeling yourself starting to react, you could take your right hand and you could touch your own tension. And then I want you to start breathing deeply and slowly right through the tension inside your body. So you're embracing your own emotion, your own tightness, and your own stress with your touch and your breath. These are the two tethers to the present moment that we train our coaches in using so that we're always remaining present. And as we're listening, we're letting go of our own stress so we could be in the moment. And that's really where the magic happens, when we can remain present and just witness what the other person is letting go of.
And, we're talking about this in the context, a very serious context of suicidal ideation and people that are having extreme anxiety, depression symptoms and trying to open up to us. But it occurs to me that, I have a teenager and I have plenty of difficult conversations with my teenager. And we don't have to wait necessarily to be having these incredibly serious conversations to practice this type of listening or space holding with people, do we?
I'm so glad you brought this up. So, a lot of our coaches that are in training, when I'm teaching them and certifying them in these techniques, they'll actually practice with their spouses, right? And their children. So, what are our biggest triggers? Usually it's a spouse, a parent, a child, or a supervisor that reminds us of a parent when we were younger or some kind of traumatic relationship, right? So, what we do there is we practice, right? And we practice listening, and then we go into the 5 prompts. The 5 prompts are essential questions that help somebody open up. And when we're certifying our coaches and they're using these 5 prompts with their spouses, by the time they get to the third prompt, their spouse, it always happens like clockwork. Their spouse is like, you know what? It's not even about you. I've had this issue since I was a kid. And then they start to connect the dots because the other person's holding space for it all. When we're not overreacting and ping-ponging that ball of argument back and forth over the net, once that stops, once somebody puts the racket down, that ping pong ball falls off the table. And now we just have each other in the present moment. So I would love to transition into the 5 prompts and share that with everyone watching now. The 5 prompts help us unpack the layers of our pain. It helps us break through those subconscious barriers. And if you're really practicing those body language techniques and really practicing a soft tone and pace to your flow, the other person's going to open up. And the best questions that I found that we train our crisis counselors in, suicide prevention counselors in, is number one, please tell me more. And then you just zip it. You let them talk. Now, if you're with a spouse and they're projecting on you, you just let it, you do the matrix on it. Remember that scene in the Matrix when they're on the roof and the bullets are going right by them? You're just slow motioning, letting the bullets go by you, letting the projection go right by you. Nothing's landing on you. Once they're done, you're not defending. All you're doing is saying the next prompt. Number two, I want to hear everything. And then you let them talk. Same thing. Just zip it. Let them go on and on for as long as they want. When they're done, the third prompt, what's the hardest part to talk about? Now we're starting to get somewhere. Now they're starting to introspect and feel on a much deeper level. And this is where you really start to lean in with childlike curiosity and unconditional love and compassion. Just lean in, being really present. And the fourth prompt is, what's your biggest fear about that? And now we really dove into the subconscious, right? Because we're holding space. We have that great body language. So we're showing them we're receptive. We're not judging. We're not criticizing. We're just listening. They feel safe and vulnerable enough emotionally to open up even deeper. So now they start talking about their deepest fear. This is a rare moment. We typically don't get to these levels of conversation with our spouses, our kids. right? Our loved ones, sometimes even our clients. It just depends on how safe and how much they're willing to show us, right? And then the fifth prompt is, what does that feel like? And then you just let them talk and express. And I found those 5 prompts used in conjunction with really good body language of receptivity, and the practitioner is practicing letting go of their stress real time. It just brings the two individuals closer and closer together. And that is a really key step in the process of how we help people that are really overwhelmed with suicidal ideation and depression, giving them that safe space to just open up. And we actually train people on crisis lines to do this now. And the impact on the callers is really transformative.
And what do the people that you're training say about, because now I totally understand why we started with body language and positioning and things like that, because I can imagine with each of these questions, there's a recalibration that you're kind of almost starting over again with your, like, coming back to your own responses and your own discomfort and your own body sensations with each kind of deepening of a question. And do you find that that's true with the people that you're training?
Most of our training is in live situations. So I bring people into our training Zoom rooms that are veterans, first responders, um, mothers of veteran suicide, that we bring into our training sessions. And I'm observing and I'm sending cues to the person that's doing the coaching in the chat privately, just between me and them, which is guiding them, right? So it's like a toggle back and forth between letting go of your own stress and then giving them space so they could unpack their pain. And then you just go to the next prompt. And it goes deeper and deeper for both people, for the witness and the person releasing. And if you look at it, if you step back, both people are releasing stress at the same exact time.
I bet it's beautiful to witness and experience. And when this pain comes up, how is the person that's listening and asking questions helping the other person let the pain go? Is it simply the act of asking and listening, or is there more to it than that?
So I found all human suffering, all emotional pain needs its 3 things. All of our pain from childhood, from traumatic events, all it needs is to be seen, heard, and loved. And if the witness can provide 2 extra eyeballs, 2 extra ears, and open their heart as we're getting to the core fear and what it feels like. Once we get to prompt 4 and 5, now we've surfaced a new issue, like a whole nother level of emotion comes to the surface. And then you could cycle through the 5 prompts again to unwind all that pain and emotion. And as we're doing that, the practitioner's letting go of their own stress. They're really connecting and starting to co-regulate now with statements such as, I'm not going anywhere. I'm right here with you, right? We're in this together. It's those connective statements now. So once we've gotten the core issue on the table, now it's time to connect and then co-regulate. And I found, if it's between a family member, a loved one, um, the best thing is to bring it in a little bit closer, to touch hands or to start hugging. And you start saying these statements in your mind as the witness. I'm okay and I love you. This opens up your heart as the witness, because one of the toughest things to do is to keep our heart open when we're facing the pain of a loved one. Think about, those different times that we were in a hospital room with a loved one that was passing away, right? We all go through these events, some of the most traumatic events of our lives. If we could go back and just wave a magic wand, wouldn't we want to hold both of their hands and just open our heart, right? And just vibrate unconditional love to them and kind of like have them experience that. But typically, folks in those rooms, in those hospital rooms, we're all crying around them. We're all entrenched in our own process, right? So, what this does, it helps you become astute in understanding yourself, your body, and releasing stress. And it starts to become natural. So, like if I'm in a supermarket and something happens and I get triggered, it's almost like a natural thing now. I put my hand on it, I'm breathing into it, and I'm still shopping for the peanut butter. right? It just becomes second nature over time.
And it's interesting because what you haven't mentioned at all in this, line of questioning and presence and connection is agreement. You haven't said that in order to understand the other person that you're holding space for and guiding, that you have to agree with anything. And I think that's where so many people get caught up. They expect that understanding alone and holding space means that I agree with whatever the person's going through. And that's why we want to argue. It's our own discomfort, but also we don't want the other person to think that if they say, my life is worthless, and I say, tell me more, that that implies that we agree with them or something. Do these kinds of objections ever come up in the training?
So, can you say that again when you said my life is worthless? Can you say that again? I want
Yeah.
to show everyone
Yeah,
what we're
absolutely. Yeah.
talking about.
I'm afraid that my life is worthless.
Oh my God. Please tell me more. I'm right here. I want to hear everything. That's how we lean in with that childlike curiosity and compassion. We're leaning in. Right when they become brave enough to show us that darkest pain, that's when we want to lean in. We want to dive right into it with them so they know in our tone, in our body language, in our very simple word choice that we're not going anywhere. We are 100% present and focused on them. And we're not scared. We're not scared because they're scared. Their pain is scared. There's only two forces in the universe: expansion, which is love, and constriction, which is pain and fear. They're in constriction, they're in pain and fear. All we're doing is bringing love and expansion, diving into the constriction and unwinding it. And the 5 prompts helps facilitate that. And as they're answering, more pain comes up, but it starts to unwind and unlock and release.
And so when people are going through this, obviously they're with somebody else, but if you're alone and you're experiencing this kind of discomfort and pain, what are the kind of self-care techniques that you teach people that can help them release this kind of deep emotional pain if they're alone?
So, and one of the things in the Suicide Prevention Family Handbook is we talk about having a great support system. In the beginning of the book, you fill it out. You put in the folks' names, phone numbers, emails. Yeah, I have my name in there, our direct office line in there. So you're connected and you have people in your life, right? And it's on the forefront, because as we go into this journey, it's exactly what it is. It's an emotional journey. We're turning over all those stones and letting all those emotional creepy coralies, run out and express verbally. But we have a bunch of techniques that we train our coaches in, and in turn, they guide their clients through, and I guide my clients through. One's called the TMR, the traumatic memory release, which is a great technique if you are aware of a traumatic memory that's causing your pain, right? Some of the techniques, our most simple technique is called stress stopper breath work. That is a technique. It's probably the first thing that I teach and our coaches teach. It's a simple 3-step process that helps you let go of stress in seconds. So anytime you're stressed out, I want you to practice this. Just touch the tension that you're feeling in your body. Start breathing deeply and slowly. And once per breath, I want you to silently say, I'm okay. So let's do 3 breaths of that together. So normally when I'm stressed, it's my heart. So I'll touch my heart. I'll start breathing deeply and slowly. I start to really feel the airflow coming in through my nose, opening up my sinuses, going down my throat. I'm okay. Now I'm going to follow the breath again in through the nose. Now I really feel it circulating throughout my chest. I'm okay. Now I start to notice my heart rate start to slow down. I am okay. Now, I've been doing that for decades, right? If you practice it for a month when you're going to sleep for 5 minutes, you'll be out like a light and you'll be able to use it when it matters most, when you're stressed during the day, right? So this is a simple tool: touch, breathe, and then you have the mantra, I'm okay. That mantra works because it is the reverse logic that programmed our fight or flight reaction, which is I must run or fight to stay alive. So when we do that and we say that soft whisper of the universe, when our cells hear that simple mantra, and our cells feel the connection right where we feel the tension, and we have the airflow breathing right into that area of the tightness, our stress usually lets go within 2 minutes. And the more you practice, the quicker the stress releases. So that's a technique that we had certified by the American Institute of Stress in 2012.
And do you typically recommend, you mentioned before bed, I didn't know if there was any specific reason for that, other than it's just kind of part of an unwinding practice, or if it's specifically because we want to practice it when we're not activated, when we're not feeling, these deep feelings of loneliness or helplessness or hopelessness. It's like I lay down, and the last thing I do before I go to sleep and knock off is practice this I'm okay and breathing technique. Can you tell me more about it?
Yeah, so when we lay down at night, and you could place one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly button, and practice it that way, a few things happen. We are strengthening the neural pathways in our brain every time we say, I'm okay. And we say it once per breath, like a soft whisper. When we're touching those areas of our body and we're following the airflow in and out of our chest, imagining it moving through the tension, we're actually wiring in that consciousness of I'm okay into the body. I like to touch the area that we usually have stress and tension, right, in our body, because that's where the cellular memories are stored inside the body. So if your spouse triggers you, let's say you're a man and your wife triggers you, we typically are duking it out with our mother through our wife, right? And if you're a woman married to a man, you're typically duking it out with your husband. You're typically duking it out with your dad through your husband, right? This is how the subconscious works and how stress works its way out in a very slow way. If we could get to the root and we start to address the body and the areas of holding the cellular memory, now that's another way of breaking through the barriers of the subconscious where we could heal more quickly. So I like doing it at night because often people that suffer with stress and anxiety, they have a tough time going to sleep. And even people that have been diagnosed with really severe sleep disorders call me the next day saying, I haven't gotten to sleep this quick in 10 years, right? And then I say, okay, great, keep on practicing, and it just keeps on building that muscle memory, just like going to the gym, getting that muscle memory so that when you are upset during the day and you touch the tension, you start breathing deeply and slowly, your body goes, oh, I know what this is. I know what's happening. I'm supposed to relax now, right? So that's why I like to practice at night.
Thank you for that explanation. Makes perfect sense. A lot of the techniques that you're talking about have a lot of self awareness, self regulation, mental focus, knowledge of your body. They shouldn't be, but they seemed like they could be advanced skills for some people. I mean, when I think of some of my family and friends, that might be a lot for them. So, what do you want people to know about the misconceptions about how hard it might be to develop this kind of self awareness, self regulation, mental focus?
It's super easy. I always share this thought with people. Once we turn around and start walking towards everything we've been running from, the battle's almost halfway over, right? It's just that act of running, reaching outside ourselves, going to pills, the gym, the bar, cigarettes. We've all done a million different things to cope. Look at the myriad of addictions that plague the world, right? We have a myriad ways of unhealthy coping. The answer is inside of you. All you got to do, touch the tension. Anyone can do this. I've had 3-year-old children do this, and then they remind their parents to do it when their parents are upset. That's a lot of fun when your kids remind you how to manage your stress, by the way. Um, one of the most rewarding times in my life in doing this work was about 15 years ago. I was in a clinic, an outpatient clinic, where there was about 35 patients in the group. I was coming in once a month and teaching an hour-long class. And the 35 folks in the class had severe psychological diagnoses. And by the fourth month, their stress was lower than the doctors, nurses, social workers, therapists that were all working in the building. And then the mental health professionals started coming into our sessions. inside, working side by side with their patients in our class. So this works for everyone. If you're alive and you're in a body, the touch, your cells have been waiting for this touch. And when your calm cells touch the tense cells, there's an equilibrium that happens. Every cell on the planet is pre-programmed for homeostasis. So we're just helping the body. The body knows how to let go. The problem is in the mind. The mind doesn't know how to let go. Because when all of our emotions are coming up, they're only coming up to release. Even depression is coming up to release. The issue is, once we feel it, the mind identifies with it. It says, I'm so depressed. I'm so angry. I'm so sad. Now your subconscious takes that order and it delivers upon that order. Your subconscious is like a machine that delivers on every order of every thought that you have. So you got to be really careful, right? And start to become more aware of what you're thinking. So touching the tension, embracing it with your breath and your touch. Your breath and your touch are the two tethers to the present moment. And then using that mantra, I'm okay. This starts to recreate how we can activate and awaken the relaxation response, sometimes in seconds with a month or so of practice, and it puts you back in the driver's seat. Because let's face it, stress is driving humanity crazy. We're caught in a catch-22. We have all of this emotion, anxiety built up in us from hundreds, if not thousands of years through our ancestral trauma, generational trauma that's locked away in the DNA. It's all coming up to release. So these techniques just help us embrace the process and open the mind so we can truly start to let go.
And for somebody that's listening to this and they can experience, they know as you're talking, they feel as you're talking, the energy that they have been using to suppress and avoid feeling these things, whether it's a loved one that is suffering and that's too much for them, or it's their own suffering. Just the insurmountable amount of energy you use to avoid and suppress letting these things come up because it feels too big, too important, too risky. What do you tell people about what happens when you stop avoiding the discomfort and hold it in care with community like this?
The light never disappoints. We use a few techniques called higher power healing and the inner child visualization, the TMR technique I talked about. But what I found is that in my coaching and in my retreats, when someone's most traumatic event of their life is serenaded from their subconscious and is on the surface now we call upon our own higher power, which is just part of ourselves. It's only higher faculties in our brain and the universe that we haven't been calling upon yet, that haven't awakened yet. But once we merge that tension with that pure light and expansion, what do you think happens? The tension just starts to unlock and release. And the body becomes a chalice of that light and unconditional self-love. And the healing agent truly is love. All these techniques are just Jedi mind tricks to trick our body into opening up to the self-love that is deep inside every single one of us.
It's beautiful. I can't think of another way to end this session. It seems perfect. Brett, how can people find out more about you and your organization?
So our website is stressisgone.com. We have a super special for the Trauma Super Conference. If you're on a PC, you'll see in the top of the website, there'll be a little ticker. It's only going to be up there for the length of the Trauma Super Conference while that's airing. And we're going to have a free download just for all the amazing people that registered for this conference of our new book, right? The Suicide Prevention Family Handbook. And we're also going to have another coaching special. If anyone's really out there and they're suffering with that emotional pain, depression, sadness, whatever it might be, if you use the promo code, the coupon code inside the checkout cart for a coaching session or a coaching package, use the promo code use the promo code Trauma SC. The promo code is Trauma SC to get half off any coaching packages that we have. I'm here to help you. Our other coaches are here to help you. And we have a ton of great resources for you.
Brett, thank you again so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for your amazing questions. It was great to be with you and a true honor to be a part of the Trauma Super Conference.